Today's guest, Gary Pihl, has played several years with the Sammy Hagar Band and Boston. He is a lead guitarist and a gentleman. He is currently part of supergroup trio Alliance with former guest Robert Berry on lead vocals, keyboards, and bass, and future guest, also a member of the Sammy Hagar Band, drummer David Lauser. I'm Bruce Hilliard, and you're listening to the Better Each Day podcast radio show.
Welcome to the Better Each Day podcast radio show with Bruce Hilliard. Today and every day, reaching out for innovative ideas in every way. Today's show is brought to you by your future. It comes with a lifetime guarantee. Make a better each day now, baby.
What caught my eye was I saw that you played with Boston.
Uh-huh.
What in the heck was that like? That must have been something working with Tom Scholz and all.
Yes, well, and that is still ongoing. I'm still in the band.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we did 4 years in a row, 2014, 15, 16, 17, out on the road. And then Tom said, gosh, let's take a break for a little while, because actually the band has never toured that much, 4 years in a row. So we're taking a break. So we took off last year, and we're not going to tour this year, but I hope we go out again next year.
Who's on lead vocals now?
Tommy DiCarlo. And you must not have seen the band, or maybe you've never seen the band. I don't know.
I have.
Okay. Obviously, back when Brad was in the group.
Yes.
So, I don't know how much you want to get into that, but Brad, of course, sadly took his own life in 2007. And my theory is that is because he had a concussion. And, of course, we now know so much more about that than we did, those 12 years ago. Supposedly, you're 10 times more likely to take your own life if you've had a concussion. And, of course, they're seeing that in, NFL football players because they, keep butting heads, all day long. That's their job. Right?
Yeah.
And the same thing happened with the lead singer from In Excess. He hit his head on the cement sidewalk or something. 3 months later, he took his own life. So it's like, but again, back then, we just didn't know anything about it. The circumstances were that Brad had a motorcycle and was in a small motorcycle accident. We were actually rehearsing. This was like December 2006. We were rehearsing to do a special one-off show as a tribute to Doug Flutie. And I don't know if you know who he is.
Oh, yeah.
Football guy,
absolutely.
Right?
Boston College. He played in Canada for years. He was like the Michael Jordan of football players in Canada.
Exactly, yeah. So anyway, the town of Boston was doing a tribute to him because, he has a son that has autism.
Yeah.
And so he's done a lot for that charity. Anyway, so they were doing a tribute for him, and apparently Boston was one of his favorite bands. And so they asked us if we'd play. We said, absolutely, sure, I'd be glad to. So anyway, try to make this long story shorter.
Oh, it's a great story.
So one day Brad walks into rehearsal and his baby finger is kind of bandaged up, and I said, "Oh, what happened to you?" He said, my motorcycle, I took a spill." And he said, I wasn't going fast at all. I was coming up to a stop sign, and there were some wet leaves on the road, and I hit him, and the bike slid out from underneath me, and the next thing I know, I woke up in the hospital, and his helmet was cracked. So, man, he must have really taken a hit to have his helmet cracked. But again, he seemed perfectly fine. He had to get like 3 stitches on his baby finger, right? You figure, no problem, and we didn't think anything about it. But he was kind of never the same after that. 3 months later, he took his own life, unfortunately. So. Again, now we're finding out so much more about concussions and the aftermath and how it affects your brain. And anyway, it's a very sad story.
Yeah, tragic story. It's good they're making progress on that. I talked to Robert Berry a great
Yes.
lead vocalist you're working with, as you well know, and he worked with Keith Emerson, and same kind of deal, kind of out of the blue. I don't think anybody ever sees it coming, and the tragic
Right.
stories every time, and I think we all kind of sit and try to figure out why did that happen?
Sure.
There's never,
Yeah, sure.
It's the riddle for which there is no answer. But I've never heard the concussion thing, and I guess that kind of helps. I heard him on an interview, actually. There's a recording of an interview he did like the day before.
Uh-huh.
He sounded fine, but you never know.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, he seemed completely fine. You know, was always one of the nicest guys I ever knew, you know. And so whatever, he hid it well, I guess, that his internal troubles there.
What an awesome singer. Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah. So anyway, we were, you know, of course, at the time, Tom thought, well, that's it. You know, Boston's done. You know, how could you replace a guy like Brad Delp? You know,
Yeah.
but somebody sent us a link to Tommy DiCarlo's MySpace page at the time.
Yeah.
Because Tommy was just a fan of Boston and had sung some of our songs, you know, like karaoke style, whatever, you know, sang along with the songs. And Tom heard that and said, "Oh my gosh, that guy sounds amazing. Let's, you know, call him up and see what he's doing." And Tommy had never been in a band in his life. He was just doing this for fun. You know, he worked at Home Depot, right? And so I'm sure when whoever called him, you know, said, "Okay, this is Boston. We want you to come audition," he probably was thinking, "Billy, is this you? Who is this really? Come on."
Who the hell's doing this?
No, really. It's Boston. You know, we want you to come up here to try out. And again, fantastic singer. Never been in a band, but terrific. And of course, nicest guy. You know, he's great to work with, and has really grown into the position. And he seems like such, you know, like the guy next door. You know, I mean, one of you know the old saying about a guy you'd want to sit down and have a beer with.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
He's that guy. You know, he's just as normal as could be. You know, and
what a story!
Married,
Yeah,
married couple of kids. You know, just the guy next door.
Cool. From the paint section of Home Depot to one of the greatest rock and roll bands of all time. That happens all the time. You know. God.
Right. Yeah.
That's a fun story.
Now my path to Boston was a little longer. In '77, I joined Sammy Hagar's band, and almost one of the first gigs we did was to open up for Boston at the end of their first tour. Our manager knew their manager, and then they liked us, we liked them, and they said, "Hey, you guys should open the entire second tour for us," and that's just what we did, '78 through '79. So we got to know the guys pretty well, and again, great time opening for them. But then in '85, when Sammy got the call to join Van Halen, Tom Scholz called me and said, "Hey, I heard you're out of a gig. Would you come back here and play on the last song on the Third Stage album? You know, we have one more song to be recorded. You know, would you want to come back and play on it?" Of course, I said, "Absolutely, sure. You know, I always loved the band, and you know, I'm out of work, so what have I got to lose?" You know?
Did all that happen like in the course of a day or two, or how'd that go?
Well, so of course we had planned this. So he called a few weeks before our last show.
Oh, I see.
Which was Farm Aid, Illinois. In Farm Aid 1 in Champaign, Illinois. And so I left directly from there to Boston to start working with Tom. And after I'd been there for a couple of weeks working on the song, he said, "You know, I think we work well together. Why don't you move back here? We'll finish the album. We'll go on tour, and who knows what." You know, well, of course I'm still here. But, I mean, how lucky could a guy get? You know, I wasn't out of work for a day, you know.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. But you're the guy next door, though. You're probably a really easy guy to work with, so it pays off, you know.
Well, I hope so, and I try to be the team player, you know, that because, you know, being in a band is like being on a team. You know, you all got to start and stop at the same time.
Yeah.
And you certainly have to get along, you know, because, you know, you're living with these guys on a bus or a car or a plane or train or anything, you know, for 9 months out of the year or something. So, yeah, you definitely have to be able to get along. But just before I left, you know, for Boston, Sammy, of course, told us, "Hey, you know, I got an offer I can't refuse from Van Halen, but you guys are such a great band. All you need is a singer. Plug him in, and you're ready to go." So we were on Geffen Records at the time, and that's how we met Robert Barry. They had recommended him to us. Robert had just worked with Keith Emerson, of course.
Yeah.
And but again, I jumped ship in the meantime, so it didn't quite all get together. But after Boston's third stage tour in '87, Tom came to us and said, well, it's going to be a few years before the next Boston album is done, so if anybody has any other side projects they want to do, go ahead. So I called up David Lauser and Alan Fitzgerald, of course, our keyboard player from Sammy's band, and asked them if they wanted to do a side project. And both of them said, yeah, sure. And as a matter of fact, we were introduced to this guy, Robert Barry, through Geffen, and let's give him a call. So we called him up and actually met in Sammy Hagar's home studio, and we showed him some of our song ideas, and he had a bunch of ideas, and we just clicked. He just seemed just like us. He was the brother we never had.
Cool.
And so we've been together ever since, although, as you know, not very often because we're so busy with our other projects. Fitz, of course, was in Night Ranger and busy with that. Dave's been doing a bunch of session stuff, as well as back with Sammy on and off over the years. And Robert, as you know, always has a million irons in the fire there.
Well, Sammy has a talk show, an interview show now that I see when I'm at a home that has dish satellite systems, because I don't have it at home. But it's pretty fascinating seeing what he's doing there. And he's kind of a crazy guy. He looks like a really fun guy to be around. Was he fun to work with?
Absolutely. And yeah, what you see is what you get with Sammy.
The Red Rocker.
He's always in a good mood. Of course, great musician. And he made it fun for us. I was in his band 8 years, and every year he'd say, and next year's going to be even better. And it was.
Wow.
Every year we had better record sales and bigger places to play. And so, yeah, every year was better and better. And that's why, at the end he said, oh, man, we were really on a roll. We had, videos on MTV. Our last record went platinum. It's like, we were doing well. So I hate to leave, but, it's an offer I can't refuse. And so, sorry, I got to go.
You have an amazing resume. How did that get started? Were you just at the right place at the right time? I know you're a great player, and you're obviously a great guy, but it just unfurled in an unlikely way, I think. Yes.
Again, I'll tell you a couple of things that have helped me over the years that I pass on to young musicians when they ask me, like, well, how'd you get that gig in Sammy's band? Because that was really, obviously joining Sammy's group, and he already had a record label, and the deal, and, we went on tour right away, So, and the way that happened was I was in a local band in the San Francisco Bay Area, there where I lived, and we were looking for a singer, and we had heard that Sammy had just left Montrose, and so somehow somebody gave us his number. We called him up and said, hey, we're looking for a singer. And he said, well, I just signed this record deal, but I got a band already, but I need to do some gigs. I kind of want to break them in. Let me do some gigs with you guys. So we actually did a couple of shows together where he opened for us, and we, got to know him at least a little bit there. And our band had been together about 4 years and about to break up because we just couldn't get a record deal, and it wasn't quite happening for us. And so our manager said, gee, why don't you join Sammy's band? And I said, well, he's been through about 6 guitar players, why should I join? He'll just kick me out in a couple of weeks, But he said, no, give him a call. He's a great guy. So I called him up, and one of the first things he said was, say, Pihl, are you into drugs? I said, well, no, why? And he said, man, why don't you come down to jam with us and see how it goes, So I go down to jam/audition for him, and while I'm there, Sammy's manager called and said, hey, there was a gig with Queen and Thin Lizzy. Queen had to cancel. Thin Lizzy's going to headline. You guys could be the opening act if you have a guitar player. So here I am. Sammy turns to me and says, hey, can you be ready in 2 days? And I go, yeah, sure, I can do it.
What you got?
So I go home and practice all the songs, and did the gig, and it actually went well, and we got a nice review from the show. And I was saying goodbye to the guys afterwards, like figuring, well, they just, had me fill in for this show or something. But Bill Church, the bass player, said, no, you're in the band. This is it. I said, oh, okay, nobody really told me.
Cool.
So that's it.
Yeah.
I was in the right place at the right time.
Well, there was a pivotal spot where he said, we're going to play in a couple of days. Are you going to be ready? And you said, oh, yeah, sure, I'll be ready. So.
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, that's good. That's a classic lead guitar answer. Yeah, if you've heard the joke, how many lead guitar players does it take to screw in a light bulb? One to screw.
Yeah, how many?
One to screw it in, and one to say, "I can do that."
Better. Yeah.
Better. Yeah.
Do that better.
Yeah. So there. Yeah. All the rest of my jokes are drummer jokes. That's the only lead guitar player I know. Lead guitar joke I know.
Or faster, one or the other.
Yeah. There you go. I get paid by the note.
In fact, during our set, back in the days there was a point in the show where Sammy would say, "Okay, Pihl, I know you've been waiting for this. Let's have a little guitar battle right now on stage." The band is doing, we're playing Bad Motor Scooter. He says, "Okay, you take your best shot, and then I'll take my best shot. We'll go." So we start, trading off solos, one after the other, back and forth, and people afterwards would say, "Wow, are you guys really mad? You tried to?" No, forget. This is just all for fun.
Absolutely.
So some days he said, "Oh, you beat me," and other days he said, "Hey, I smoked you tonight."
And you're playing Bad Motor Scooter, and you're supposed to be saying, "Well, Ronnie Montrose could have been up there, and then we would have had a battle."
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and wow, Ronnie was a terrific player.
Yeah, whatever happened to him?
Took his own life.
I didn't know that. Jeez.
Yeah, hate to say it. Yeah.
Well, Gary, I don't know if I want to play with you. You just have
bad luck for a lot of guys.
Well, we have a sense of humor too, I guess, about that. But it sounds like you're the kiss of death. So
yeah.
That way. Fire and Grace. What an awesome solo on that. The whole song's really cool, but
well, thanks.
You kill it.
I wish our fans could be in the studio with us, because that was one of those songs that was, again, the magic happened for us. That I had a guitar riff idea, Robert had some words and a melody, David came up with that cool groove on the drums, and so we started playing, and it just happened in the studio. That was it, one take, done.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, but that's what happens sometimes, and again, that's the fun part about being in the studio and working with a band. These days you can send files back and forth, email or whatever.
Yeah.
But we don't want to do it that way. Again, we're old school. We want to be in the same room at the same time. You're looking at the guy, you got the amp cranked up, and you're playing, and stuff happens, and sometimes you didn't plan it that way, but hey, that's where that break is, or we hit this accent or something,
You can hear the spontaneity, and that's what you can't do, sending MP3s back and forth or something like that. Spontaneity in the room at the same time. You're entirely right. I think that's just awesome, and it does sound like that. You start out with a 12-string.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken.
That I put on later.
Oh, okay.
But for the initial track, in fact, it's still in there. My initial 6-string is still in there. But I did add a 12-string on top of it.
What a cool song. It's 3 minutes and 27 seconds of kick-ass rock. I like it.
Well, thanks. Yeah, again, that's the fun part about working with those guys. And, of course, I had played with Dave all those years in Sammy's band. And Robert and Dave and I are also in another band. I don't know if Robert told you about it.
No.
Called December People.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, he was talking about that. There's some, parodies on Christmas songs done to a rock flavor. Yeah.
Exactly. We take, it was his idea, of course, and we take traditional holiday songs, but do them in the styles of our favorite rock bands. So we'll do Santa Claus is Coming to Town like ZZ Top. You better watch out. You better not cry. And Led Zeppelin, AC/DC, U2, Huey Lewis, Santana. The list goes on and on and on. Again, every song sounds like a different band doing it. But again, it's all holiday songs that you've all grown up with and you can sing along.
Yeah. And they're meant to be fun, so what the heck,
That's right. And so it's very family friendly, and every show we do is a benefit for a local food bank usually. So it's a great thing to do at that time of year to give back, and we love doing that.
That's so cool. Another song that I fell in love with, I listened to your whole album several times, and it's one of the best albums I've heard in a long time. Nobody really does good albums anymore. It's like a dead art or something. But Time.
Well, thanks for saying that.
Time is the name of the song, and I love how it gets to the chorus and it has this descending bass line kind of thing. It's just really catchy. I really like that.
Well, I've been looking back through some old memories that I saved here in this drawer with all my dreams. Tattered newspapers, stacks of interviews, words of wisdom that I learned when life was war. And time ain't changed a thing. Time can't change my mind. I've been heading for that dream for most my life, and I'm not giving up. I'm not giving in, 'cause that road that led me here is the road that never ends. I've spent a lifetime searching for truth, looking past disappointments that got in my way. Yeah, at times I felt bitter, at times I felt like a heavy hitter, but no matter what came, it made me strong. And time ain't changed a thing. Time can't change my mind. I've been headed for that dream for most my life. I'm not giving up. I'm not giving in, 'cause the road that led me here is the road that never ends. And the light at the end of the tunnel, I always saw it burning bright, like the sun coming over the mountains. I still feel like a kid inside. I used to talk with the Janine, I'd throw in some history, kept each word I spoke carefully placed and guarded, and my course was clear. Now as I'm sitting here, feel the same inside I did when I first started. Yeah, time ain't changed a thing. Time ain't changed my mind. I've been heading for that dream for most of my life. Yeah, and I'm not giving up. I'm not giving in. 'Cause the road that led me here is the road that never ends. Yeah. Never ends. I can still see me, my guitar sitting there on the porch. Oh yeah, music flowing through my hand like a torch.
Oh, well, thanks. Yeah. Again, I'm just thrilled to be working with Robert and Dave. You know, they're such great musicians and so intuitive, and again, so much in the moment. Like, you know, here's, you know, try this and do that. And as we're in the studio, you know, no egos involved.
Yeah.
You know, if somebody has an idea, like Dave, the drummer, is telling me, you know, he said, "Hey, try to strum the guitar like this, and then hit this chord on minor instead of major." And, you know, he's the drummer, but I know that whatever it is, he's got some cool idea in his head. And so I try it, you know, and we don't, no egos are getting in the way here.
Yeah, that would do nothing but mess things up, I think, when that happens.
Yeah.
Who does the writing? Do you guys just, the way you describe it, you kind of share in the writing? Somebody has an idea and you just take off with it?
Robert is the most prolific. So, but on this particular album, I wrote 2 of the songs. Dave wrote 2 songs. And then, as I say, Fire and Grace was a collaboration of all 3 of us, just on the spot. And then the rest were written by Robert.
Good stuff. I'm really, really impressed.
Oh, well, thanks. And I was going to say the other side of it is that all the lyrics, or most of them, have a positive message. You know, there's so much negativity in the world these days that, you know, we wanted to write positive songs, you know, about people's struggle to overcome, to do the right thing, and I hope that comes across as well.
Yeah, that is much needed. These days aren't as happy as I wish. I'm reading your bio here. It says, "I grew up thinking that being in a band would be the coolest thing ever." Now, here's the question. I asked this recently of somebody, and I didn't really phrase it very well, but would you rather have a really cool car or a band that's just ready to go?
Yeah, no question about it. The band. That's,
yeah.
That's the best. Yeah. And you know, who knows why exactly? You know, I'm old enough. I was in a band before the Beatles.
Yeah.
So because a lot of guys say, "Oh, you know, I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, and that was it. That changed my life."
You always
know,
hear
I
that.
wanted to be in a band.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm old enough. No, I was in a band before then, before I saw the Beatles on TV.
What was your band and what did you play?
Oh, now back then we were doing surf music. I lived in California.
Okay.
So we're doing instrumentals, you know, Dwayne Eddy and
Dick
the Ventures,
Dale. And...
those were my favorite guys. And then when I got into high school, I was in a band, of course, in high school, and one of the other players in the band said, "Hey, there's this guy giving guitar lessons in the next town over. He's really good. We should all take lessons from him." So we went to check him out. We actually saw his band, the Warlocks, play at a local pizza parlor.
Jerry Garcia?
And that was Jerry Garcia giving us lessons.
Wow. You've been everywhere.
Again, just lucky to be in the right place at the right time.
When's your biography come out?
You know, my wife keeps telling me that, you know, you should write this stuff down.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's a crazy world, you know. You and I know who Jerry Garcia is, but, you know, you mentioned Jerry Garcia to teenagers, and they say, "Oh, who's that?"
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know again, some of us old folks would know who that was, but maybe the younger people don't, and don't really care. They got their own heroes.
They do, and they come and go so quickly. I can't keep track of them. I probably know more from the era that you were speaking of prior to Beatles than I do of music that's come out in the past 5 years or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Easily.
Yeah, when I hear new songs on the radio, I have to ask my kids, hey, who is that? They'll tell me because they know. But because, sometimes, of course, the radio stations don't tell you who it is. They're just on to the next song. So, and again, sometimes they don't last very long on the radio.
No, and the bands don't either. The artists don't. And I've heard people say, well, are there any iconic musicians anymore? And I don't know. It seems like it got faded away.
I think Dave Grohl, he's got to be up there as, what a career he's had.
That's funny because it was an interview where this question came up, and it was Dan Rather that was talking. And he of course, does an interview show, too, with rock musicians, country musicians, you name it. But they're mostly pop-type-oriented musicians. And he said the only iconic band he could think of recent time was Nirvana. And you just came up with Dave Grohl, so that's kind of makes it double iconic, I guess. Yeah, I think Dave is really focused. He's done a lot since Nirvana. And, and the funny thing is, he's not the drummer in his band, which he was with Nirvana. So
exactly. First time I saw him on guitar, I said, "Wait, he's the drummer, right? What's that?" So yeah, he's got a lot of talent. And as Robert Barry, he plays all instruments. Drums, keys, guitar, bass.
Yeah, he's fun to talk to. I really enjoyed talking with him.
Yeah.
And, I could take your entire day up. We've been yakking for about 26 minutes, but that's plenty. I can edit all this stuff out. But, God, you're an incredible player.
Well, thank you so much.
Do you spend a lot of time with scales and doing icky stuff, or you just basically pull it out of the case and start going?
I don't study as much technical stuff as I perhaps should. I'm the kind of guy that tries to play to the song. So as I'm working on a song idea or a guitar riff or whatever, that's kind of what I'm going for. And again, certainly with Alliance, that's what we do. And in fact, Robert even says that. He said, well, do that Gary Pihl thing you do to this song where, I'll try to play a riff so it's not just chords and not just a single line, but, like two notes at a time sort of thing, the double stop thing. And he said, yeah, that's stuff you do that, nobody else does it quite like you do it, And
so it's signature Gary Pihl. Play some Gary Pihl.
That's right, yeah.
Well, let me see if I can.
I've loved my place in Boston, and of course, those are Tom's songs and his sound. In fact, of course, he designed the amplifiers that we're using on stage even. Yeah. And I love working with that. But with Alliance, I want my own sound and style. In fact, I even built my own tube guitar amp to play on this last album here. Because I wanted my own sound, so nobody else in the world has that sound because I built that amp,
Yeah, that's so cool. And you would think you'd detect some Tom Scholz in your playing, and no, it sounds like you. So,
oh, good.
Mission accomplished, yeah.
I love Tom, and I love being Tom's, harmony player in the band. Obviously, we're doing a lot of those harmony guitar solos together and all that, and I've certainly learned a lot from him about just how to play and just musically. And of course, when they put together those lists of 100 greatest guitar players of all time, he's on there. Mm. But he's also on the list of 100 greatest keyboard players.
Yeah,
Of course, and there's nobody else in the world that's on both those lists. and then you throw in, 100 greatest rock songs of all time. Well, he wrote More Than a Feeling and all those other great songs. And, produced the record, again, designed the amplifiers we use on stage. So he's a really special guy.
And he didn't start out at Home Depot, but he started out at what, Polaroid or?
Right, yeah.
Was it?
He was a mechanical engineer at Polaroid.
Oh, really?
But bought some recording equipment and set it up in his basement and recorded the first Boston album in his basement. And when other people found out about that, that was the whole I think, the beginning of that home recording revolution. So, well, if that guy can do it and have the biggest selling debut album ever up to that point, maybe we could do it too. And so, so these days, of course, you can record an album on your laptop computer.
Yeah. Digital made it a little bit easier, but analog to me still sounds better. But to think of him in a little basement, he did drums too, didn't he?
He didn't play them, no.
Okay.
That first album actually was two guys. The first guy he had that he had done a bunch of demos with was Jim Mazdia, and Jim's tracks are Rock and Roll Band and I'm forgetting the other one from the first album.
Yeah.
And then he brought in Sib Hashin for the rest of the tracks. But but he played everything else. Played again keys, bass, the rhythm guitars, and all that. Did all that stuff in his basement. And it wasn't until he needed to go on tour that he hired the other guys. Of course, Brad was with him doing the demos. But he then hired the other guys to start touring.
The thought of doing all the intricacies and all this stuff in a basement with just you and all these chords and guitars and stuff in the way, most people would go out of their minds. And to listen to that and how free and how wonderful it sounds, like it's in this great studio with all these engineers and all this stuff, and it's just him. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, again, he's a special guy, and he's, again, so dedicated and focused on what he's doing that he says he'll spend months working on a song and then say it's just not good enough and throw it away.
Oh, jeez.
So that's why it takes him a long time to finish albums.
Well, I am so stoked to see Alliance doing some stuff that it reminds me of. It sounds like hard work and spontaneity. You guys play well together. Well, thanks, and I hope we can do some shows this summer. Yeah.
We keep talking about it now that, again, Boston isn't going to tour this summer, but I don't know what Dave, of course, Robert works with Greg Kinn, so I'm not sure what their schedule is, but we keep saying, let's see if we can do some dates somewhere, and we would love to do some, like a festival of some sort, or a few of those, either both here or in Europe, where they have, 10 or 20 bands, and when the audience goes there, they know they're going to see some bands they've never seen before, because we're not very well known as Alliance.
Yeah.
So it'd be great to have people see us in a venue like that, where they're just open to anything. They're not expecting anything special. But it'd be great to be on a show like that.
That is pretty bold of you. We were talking about your biography and all that you've done and everything, and you start out in another band called Alliance, and might as well be a new guy, 20 years old, and because nobody knows who you are. Other musicians do.
Right. Yeah, it is like starting over because, nobody knows who Alliance is.
Yeah. Once they hear it, though, and it's a cool album cover, too.
Oh, well, thanks.
Did somebody, was that painted specially for the album? Or?
Yes. The folks from Escape Records have an artist, and they put that together. And it evolved a little bit along the way. We put in some ideas and all that. But, I hope that I'm glad you like it, because you never know. Art is in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah, well, it's all subjective, but when it's good, I think.
Good, great.
Well, thank you for your time, Gary. I'm going to let you get off and do what you need to do today, but I really appreciate talking to you, and all good.
Well, thanks so much for talking to us, and you're based in Seattle here, right?
Correct. So if you're up in the neighborhood, I'm going to track you down.
Yes.
Yeah.
Please, either with Alliance or Boston, love to have you, give you tickets to the show and have a chance to shake your hand and meet you in person.
That would be more than a feeling. See how they slip that in there. That's good. Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot, Gary.
All right. We'll see you.
All right. Bye. Take care. Bye-bye.
Never did forget, you can hear the laugh of the thousands who think they're right. Never yours the man with the gentle wave a hand that fails to fight. It goes by so
listening to the Better Each Day podcast radio show with Bruce Hilliard. We'll be back with a new horizon, but until then, honor the future. It comes with a lifetime guarantee.
And we're all just trying to make the next day a bit better.